One day I'm going to have like a whole team of people helping me with this, so that things are. I mean, I'm very much committed to this. You know,
yeah, very good. No, it's excellent. I saw 2 or 3
oh, thank you, thank you.
sessions, and I love it really.
Oh, thank you. God bless you.
Yeah. No, this is, and I share it to some friends, and yeah.
Oh, thank you, thank you. No, that really means a lot. So I do believe we should be live right now. And I'm just going to double check that we are. Yes, so we're live on Facebook and also on YouTube. So I'm going to, yes. So hello everyone. It's my real pleasure and honor to introduce today's guest. Professor Sari Hanafi is a professor of sociology at the American University of Beirut. And let me actually change the view situation here so you can see him while I'm introducing him. And he's the professor of sociology at the American University of Beirut and chair of the Islamic Studies program. He is the president of the International Sociological Association and is also the editor of Idafat, the Arab Journal of Sociology, which is in Arabic. In 2018, Professor Hanafi founded Athar, which is a portal for social impact of scientific research in and on the Arab world. And today, I'm very pleased to say that we will be discussing Professor Hanafi's latest work, which is 800 pages long, and it is. I understand this is the translation into English of the title, "Addressing the Rupture Between the Religious and Social Sciences: Is the Morning Coming Soon?" Oh, beautiful!
This is a book.
Beautiful, beautiful. 800 pages. This is remarkable.
Yeah, it's 5 years work.
That's remarkable.
It's not. Usually, I mean, in the last quarter of century, I produce a book every 5 years.
Yes. Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful time scale to have, because I think very often, I mean, there's some professors and academics who like to produce a book every couple of years. I don't know how good the research can be, right? If it's so quick.
And how overlapping there is usually, yeah. So.
Right. And it's going to be overlapping and repetitive, exactly. So Professor Hanafi, perhaps, if you don't mind, could we start with could you say a few words as far as your formation, your background, because you have a very interesting educational background, which maybe can go into informing a little bit some of your research.
Yeah, actually, my background tell the story of this book somehow, because I grew up in a religious environment where in Syria, where you have different trends in that time, very popular, whether in terms of if you like, trend, classical, Muhammad Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti, Sheikh, who died a few years ago, or Al-Albani. So my family was part of it with Sheikh Nasruddin Albani and other with his opponent, al-Bouti. And some of them, they are Muslim Brotherhood. And so I was in a very interesting family. And myself, I was, if you like, experimenting a little bit of everything. So going to opposing directions, and to see how they make their arguments and things like that. So, and I grew up also as a Palestinian. I belong to a very secular Palestinian organization. So I saw elites formations in Syria, where there is so much labels between labeling each other, and they actually they don't talk with each other, and there's so much misunderstanding. So I felt this problem of misunderstanding. And I was lucky that I get to know a Syrian businessman, Muhammad Adnan Zarzour, his name. Actually, he's in South Africa now. So he liked some of the ideas because I was reading people like Muhammad Abid al-Jabiri, the Moroccan philosopher, Muhammad Arkoun from France, Hisham Ja'id from Tunisia, but also all this Marxist reading of Islamic history and so on. So I have this. So Zarzour like this kind of double backgrounds I have, and we did together. We have a bookshop in Damascus, and this is the only bookshop where you find books belong to all trends. Because in Syria you have, if you like, either Islamist bookshop or if you like a leftist one. And of course, you have one big one called the Nouri, was commercial one. There is no discussion. But our small library, where you find everything, it was a laboratoire of engaging dialogue between different trends. So we have many people come, etc. And I kept this project in my mind since then, that we need to engage these different elite formations to each other. And this is what I did in this book, that actually I said we need to engage this dialogue and engage it seriously, and not by eliminating the critical point between these two elite formations. So it's not something hugging each other. In Arabic, we call bos liha. It means that we kiss our bird and say khalas, it's enough conflict. And no, it's not like this. I mean, I am aware of tensions, conceptual tensions, epistemological one, lifestyle one, and everything. But we cannot continue like this. The Arab Spring, for instance, show that an elite can go and slaughter and ally with the military to slaughter the other elite. So it's really to be or not to be. I mean, the mistrust is huge. And of course, the righteous conception of some Islamist group also saying that either you think like us or you are outside of the Ummah, also it's a problematic. So from both sides, I think there is so much mistrust and misunderstanding. And in any case, this is why I think this book is important for that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that, Professor. I agree from what I've the little that I've read thus far, but also speaking to you a little bit and hearing from you now. This has been my sense as well for many years, that, well, not as many as you, but for a few years now, that we have to start thinking creatively outside of these sort of outside of a bifurcated understanding of the world. That maybe in order to understand the world in an initial sense, and when our formations are still in the early stages, maybe it makes sense to think in terms of others and things like that. But we have to somehow figure out how to integrate the knowledge and still to think in terms of the other. I think is very often detrimental. Again, to your point, I think it's a very important point, not to have like a sort of, namby-pamby, sort of, oh, I love you, you love me, we're all good. Not in that simplistic, not in a sort of high school sense like that. An issue, for example, that I have with a lot of what gets classed as interfaith dialogue. It's like, oh, we're great, you're great, this is all great. I mean, let's have discussions that takes things to the next level. One thing that, not to go on and on about this, but I think it's relevant to our discussion today to talk about your book. Excuse me. A sense that I had a few years ago, and this is a project, inshallah, that I'm trying to contribute towards it via Tahsil, but ultimately it will be a bigger project, God willing, which is how can we basically make use of, benefit from the ethical perspectives that exist in the different traditions, not only the vast ocean that is the Islamic tradition, but also from the Christian tradition, the vast ocean that is the Christian tradition, and Buddhism, Hinduism, and on, and use like creatively and think together about some of the very real ethical issues that we're facing today. Again, not in some simplistic sense, not in the sense of, to my mind, that would be the deepest form of interfaith work that we can do and the most productive. Because we are literally facing, as you mentioned, Professor, that we're facing an existential crisis. And maybe you mentioned this before we went live, but if you could please, tell us a little bit about the broad stroke terms, the subject matter of your book, looking at the Sharia in terms of. I mean, you've already touched upon sort of problematizing these bifurcated notions of, the traditional ulama, they have their study of the Sharia, then you have the secular sciences, the social sciences. Can you speak a little bit to those a bit more, please?
Yeah, actually, in a nutshell, first, I would say I put things upside down. And actually, I should give the credit to College of Islamic Studies in Qatar, who really who have this highlight the importance of ethics with the conception started by Tariq Ramadan, by Mu'taz al-Khatib, by the actual Dean Shaheen, and so on. So I think it's time to put things upside down. That instead of saying Islam is Sharia, and from Sharia we will conceive everything, I would say Islam is ethics, is the soul of ethics as a soul of the religion of Islam, and from ethics we conceive the relationship of a religion with the reality, with the society, with the nature, with etc. And so from ethics will go Sharia, but will go in fact al-fiqh, if you like, jurisprudence, and the jurisprudence can inform everything, and not only what is typically religion. I mean, ritual or relationship between a human being, muamalat, but beyond. If you start from ethics, religion become like any other spheres. It's very important to conceive a society in its totality. So if you like, the premises, I don't believe on separation between the secular and the religious. I see the distinction. I see that the distinction between different spheres, the economic, the political, the social, the cultural. I see this distinction, but society is a traverse one logic that connect all this together. So if we believe on this, we need something overarching, and this overarching is the ethics, and the ethics always has two sources in the humanity, if you like, not only in my region. You have the religion is playing major role, but you have other sources. What I can put it under the label moral philosophy. Moral philosophy, where we study what is the anthropological foundation of a human being, the gift, for instance, the relation, the exchange gift between people. This is traverse all nations and people from the humanity, as Marcel Mauss show us. So this is very important in shaping morality of someone today, whenever has been, in addition of culture, religion, and local religion and local culture, all this. So this is first. This is my schema, if you like. Now you hint, Hasan, to something really important: is whether the ethics is universal or is culturally embedded. Of course, some aspect of it is universal and some aspect is really related to context. But let me remind us that Ash-Shatibi is the first, I think, scholar, Islamic scholar, who thought that the five high objective of Islam, what he called maqasid al-Sharia, and there is five necessity that we should preserve when we think about fiqh. Now, what is very interesting, he said, this is not related to Muslim. This is related to anyone. It means that whether you are Christian, Jews, atheists, etc., you need to preserve yourself. You preserve your property, your belief, whether religion or not, and so on and so on. So I think we have so much interest of, instead of keeping saying, no, this is typical Islamic. This is, please, I mean, this is, we are so different. I mean, when I analyze textbooks of in faculty of Sharia, and many faculty of Sharia in Darabur, it's so identity politics. I mean, almost say, yeah, Universal Declaration of Human Rights said this, Christian did this, but this is so partial. What is more comprehensive, etc., is what Islam said, and 1, 2, 3. It's so say, no, we are so distant. I think this is really not helpful, and there is a lot of ideology inside. We should admit. And again, I mean, I don't like every time there is a modern concept like democracy, you say Islam come before with it. Well, I mean, it's a modern concept. I mean, no need to say Islam is Islam come with the Shura, for instance. And I think in the time of a Prophet and the four caliph, it was a great political system. But I mean, the humanity developed, everything is developed.
Do you think, Professor, do you think part of the reason why Muslims like to say, if a new concept comes up, oh, we already have this, do you think this is partly to do with Muslims' inferiority complex? It's that we have to kind of somehow show, because Muslims are no longer at the forefront. This is an obvious fact. Muslims no longer lead the world intellectually, scientifically, or in anything, right? So we have to somehow, because I say we, you know, this sort of impetus is that it comes from this place of inferiority.
Yeah, actually, this is what I label identity politics paradigm. You are defensive. You want to construct the in group by highlighting how different with the outer group. I mean, it's me as a Palestinian, I mean, nationalism is very important. I mean, it's nationalism who keep people struggling against the colonial power. So in group is very important, but I don't need to construct in a group and saying it's so different from the outer group. And this is the problem of identity politics, if you like, paradigms and knowledge production. That is always saying that no, I have something superior. I have something so different. I highlight the particularism instead of starting from what is universal. Yeah, and you know, I often said as an editor of Idafat, the Arab Journal of Sociology, that I saw and I read, let's say, but without exaggeration, around 20 to 30 articles per week. I mean, for this journal, I mean, to sort out what can be sent to referees or not. I read, and those who start from this identity politics and this particularism, they will never take off and extrapolate to do something like you say, it's interesting for me, even if the talk about a village in Morocco, that is interesting to me as a Palestinian living in Lebanon, for instance. This, while those who started from universalistic research questions and inquiry, often they can balance between the universal and the particular, and then bring a conclusion that is really useful beyond the case study that they do. So this is really it's a fundamental issue and related to the defeat that we have, to this collapse of the Arab world. If I talk about look to country like Pakistan in the last 10 years, the major massacres is done between long-standing peaceful cohabitation between Shia and Sunni. Now the issue of sectarianism in Pakistan become so salient. It's yes, I mean, it's more and more everyone wanted to construct something, say no, it's so righteous and so different from the other. There is an issue, there is a problem. Yes, absolutely. This reflect, I mean, this crisis of knowledge reflect the crisis of society.
No, absolutely, and the two, to my mind, also absolutely inextricably intertwined. Relatedly, you in your work you examine the question of the Islamization of knowledge. Can you unpack a little bit for us what this means? What is the Islamization of knowledge? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. First, I just to say a little bit methodologically, I read more than 120 texts written about Islamization of knowledge or application of this concept on knowledge production, and I noticed 2-3 things. I will mention it in a few seconds, but. So I start from a position, epistemological position, saying that I have no allergy to any qualifier you put it before a science, a discipline. So I don't have any problem with Islamic sociology, Christian sociology, let's say Syrian psychology, French political science and things like that. And actually, you will find things like that. And Marxist, for instance, as a school of thought. So basically, I don't have any allergy on this. But what me as a sociologist of knowledge, I look how much this qualifier will really show being heuristic. I mean, first being heuristic. I mean that, wow, because we put this qualifier, we understand better what is this discipline or what is part of this discipline. Okay, now what I noticed that it's really two things. First, the outcome is only related to social philosophy. It means that question of if you like, the importance of the family, the collective over the individual, things like that. Put emphasis in different sources of knowledge, including the revealed one. So, and then, okay, apply it. Try to understand, try today to resolve a problem of poverty in north of Lebanon. How would you apply? What is Islamic in this knowledge that you will inform us better about the poverty today in north of Lebanon? Nothing. Nothing. I mean, it's a very thin literature where I see difference. And then I look to and then another problem is a lot of identity politics. It's really is to keep a circular thought, say we are different, we are better, we are different, better. Show me where we stop. Now, one of the laboratoires of Islamization of knowledge was International Islamic University of Malaysia, under the leadership of Triple IT, International Institute of Islamic Thought, and they make it laboratory and they did amazing things in the beginning. The conception, for instance, ask social scientists to study to minor in Sharia and ask the Sharia people to minor in social science. I mean, this is a dream for me as a sociologist to say this is one of the major recommendation of this book, to say we need to know our tradition. Okay, we like it, we don't like it, we are atheists, we are religious, we are non-religious. To talk with people, to convince people, you need to bring arguments from their sources, from their tradition, from your tradition. So I think they did amazing things, but I think in knowledge production and research, they didn't really did much things, and they dwell in this identity politics paradigm. Now, I look to the thesis, PhD thesis. PhD thesis is a fantastic observatory if you want to understand any academic institution, because this is the intersection between faculty and students, and you see where the progress, how the education translated into a product which can be analyzed. And I found things amazing in this IUM university in Malaysia, that the new generation, they said, enough is enough. First, we will use integration of knowledge. We are not producing knowledge for Muslims, and we will not use this qualifier. This is the first thing. Second, they say, look, religion is important social phenomenon. We cannot study economics, politics without account for religion. And I will give example on this. And there's and really very nice example, that one of the theses was about the cancer breast women have in a village in Malaysia. So I went through this thesis, and there is a section showing how reciting Quran will alleviate the pain of this woman. This is how it's an ethnographic study. Okay, so this sociologist now she is teaching in this university. She went there to the village and listen to them say we alleviate our pain by reciting Quran. Few months before, I was in France attending a PhD submitted in Paris about breast cancer in a village in Tunisia. Also in the same methodology, ethnography, and absolutely nothing mentioned about religion. Nothing. And then I looked to the PhD, to the table of content, and etc. It's nothing. So it's really, it's very interesting. It's Tunisia, and I know very well the rural Tunisia is religious also. So there is no reason even to say that I looked to this and I didn't find difference. So you see, so here the professor now, the sociologist in Malaysia, she was trained with a lens that can see religion. Okay. The other trained as a secularist or a French laicist, that religion is so marginal that even we don't look at it. Okay. And we refool it, we project it, if you like, to other to say to irrational, to something, etc. So this is something new in IOM. The third thing that they said, integration of knowledge is to read more locally, and to it was very interesting for us in 2 or 3 theses. It was a statement that we read locally and we look to the theory locally and we use theory locally. When I look really to theoretical part, I didn't find it. I found it in a cosmetic way, like I used as an editor of Idafat to see how people use Ibn Khaldun. It's really, it's like what I call decorative way. You do, okay, you're like, so to impress people that you know about, or to make an identity politics statement, like doing the first sociologist in the world. Okay, so but then often I say Foucaultian thinking of power is much more sophisticated than Ibn Khaldun notion of asabiyya. But nevertheless, I mean, I think you need to combine. You need, this is my, if you like, my statement, and this is Sayyid Farid Attas, for instance, a sociologist, Vinita Sanha from Singapore. Both they advocate that we need to read Ibn Khaldun with Marx and not either or. We need to read Al-Ghazali with Pierre Bourdieu and not either or, and things like that. So I think so. I feel that independently, how much is truth in the conception of Islamization of knowledge, that it's not heuristic, doesn't yield something. So and there is a lot of eclecticism, if you like, and I see it, for instance, in knowledge reproduction. For instance, a sociologist where about migration. I mean, suddenly while stating his or her hypothesis, reciting Quran. I mean, we don't see who influenced what, and whether this is really it's you want to prove that Quran is correct, or Quran a literalist way, or the way you interpret the Quran. This is the point. It's not the Quran like obvious statement about unicity of God, etc. We are talking about what is when people leave to other land. Okay, for instance, I mean, how much is hopeful to understand a social phenomenon by this eclectism. So
right. You have the concept ecology of knowledge, I understand, right?
yeah. So this is a point. This is clear, Hasan. I said, look, I don't think of unicity of knowledge as a structural issue. It's not. I don't believe on this. Unicity of truth. This is God is the truth. Okay. We human being, we don't know truth. There is a different facet to reach the truth. Okay, so everyone will bring its own disciplines, and we will converge to know the truth. So what I said, look, let's talk about ecology of knowledge. It means that there is no knowledge without understanding culture of people, without including, and part of that culture is religion. So this is my definition. You need to look to different sources of knowledge. This is why I adopt the medieval Islamic scholar, Iranian one now from Iran, is Abdul Qahir al-Jurjani, the linguist, who resolved the issue of whether the Quran is a miracle, and say Quran as a system of language, there is a system, and as a meaning has a miracle. So this time, and Samir, the Egyptian philosopher, he took his argument and I develop it. I will show you where I develop. So how we do ecology of knowledge? We need to use a methodology called separation and connection. You you separate. So I am sociologist. I have my own epistemology. I have my own method of investigating, of doing sociological inquiry, and the Sharia scholar has its own science of علم الرجال, الحديث. There is methodology how to investigate text. Of course, before that, we have some ontological conception. What is a family? What is an individual? What is a society, etc. We can share before entering each to its discipline. But nevertheless, what I'm trying to say that there is two different aspects. That a problem in life, whether a social problem, scientific problem, COVID-19 problem, often there is an ethics inside. Even now, COVID-19, it's an ethics inside. If we close up, or if we did the closure, how much this will affect working class? It's an ethical issues also. It's we will have the medical work, medical epistemology, medical methodology to do, and other Sharia can have their own, and then we can bridge between both to make a consistency. Consistency with what? Consistency. Samir Abu Zaid, the Egyptian, he said consistency with the world view. The problem with the world view, I don't have problem with the concept of world view, but the way they understand it, like a very fixed set of thought, that it's a world view, and then you put qualifier like Islamic world view. Imagine if I will use it in Lebanon, where half of the population, they are not Muslim. I mean, it's so alienating. So it's a worldview. But I think I like the work of Muhammad Bami, who is a Palestinian sociologist based in the United States. He has a book recently, last year, it's called Life Word of Islam. And I like this phenomenological terms, life words. Life words, it means that, in fact, my behavior is so influenced by the context, by sociological context. But if you look on longitudinal way, you will find me as a Palestinian, me as Arab, living, that we behave in a certain way that it's informed by our tradition, by our old culture, etc. So life words, it make combination of this depth of the tradition, including Islam, religion, etc., but also a possibility of this agency of to be influenced by, I don't know, by French colonial power came to Algeria for 1 century, to be influenced by globalization, by beautiful science produced in Germany. All this is part of my worldview, part of my life words, if you like. Okay, so this is this convergence, this connection here is important, and from this connection we will go for action, and action is always to bring to meet with two sort of audience, a believer audience and citizen audience. So I have any problem, you need to deal with gay problem. Sorry, it's not about homosexuality, because for some people there is a problem, for others it's not a problem. So for homosexuality, for drinking alcohol, etc., there is two discourse to your believer and discourse to your citizens, and it's not the same. And for your citizen, you need to use different set of arguments, sociological one, legal one, in addition of other one come from tradition, from the religion, etc. While believer you can satisfy by throwing one verse of Quran or Hadith and say, okay, you should abide to that. But you cannot do this for citizens, and you cannot force the other to abide to something you think is good for your believer. So here, this is why I said, if we don't believe today that we live in an age of pluralism, we need to live to accommodate individual liberties as much as we can. Of course, individual liberties can conflict with the collective one. Emmanuel Levinas would say responsibility before freedom. Okay, so there is no freedom open air. It's a responsibility, my responsibility. So I think this is how I keep making all this different elite, social science elite, religious elite, that work together. They need to work at certain point together, and they need to make an argument together. And let me finish by saying that actually in a country where really the democracy is taking shape in a fantastic way, thanks to the Arab uprising, is Tunisia. And when I studied the debate about the inheritance, then the new law proposed by the late Sipsi, president of Sipsi, about making the law of inheritance equal for man and woman, I studied the debate with my colleague Azam taught me, and we found clearly that both those who are against and in favor of a new law, they use that same set of arguments, but different argument. But they use three repertoires, if you like: the sociological, the legal, and the textual. Okay. But I mean, at least nobody pronounced kafir. It's interesting. It's very interesting. Al-Azhar made a statement, say, we have a verse, very clear. Those who want to change this verse, they become kuffar. There is preempt any debate before the debate. Tunisia, no. And they end up, they didn't change anything. But independently of the outcome, there is a peaceful debate and between two different elites, and because they use the same set of arguments, the same repertoires of arguments. It's not one put a Quran and say full stop, and not the other put Sedaw and full stop. It's very interesting. For instance, those who are in favor of changing the law, they have 4 or 5 pages on high objective of Islam, maqasid al-Sharia. They said in Quran it was mentioned slavery. Now slavery is prohibited. So why not we change this? So I think it's they for the first time you find in this country the same set of language you find. And the same thing, American sociologist, I forgot his name, who did work on same-sex marriage in United States. He studied debate in one state, showing that those who are in favor or against, they are using both sociological and if you like, a human rights argument, etc. Of course, it's not converging idea, but at least they have the same language.
Yes.
It's not anymore the religious, those who are against same-sex marriage or against abortion. They are not silly. Say we do it because there is a verse, okay, or there is something in the Bible. They are also intelligent, and they are so. And I think I love the work of John Rawls on overlapping consensus that society can reach if both sides use non-authoritarian practical reasoning. And here I use the terms of the disciple of Habermas, the Irish philosopher Maeve Cook, talking about say any argument can be in public spheres, and here she is opposing both Habermas and John Rawls, saying even religious argument can be in public spheres, but the important to be non-authoritarian practical reasoning. American argument can be authoritarian practical reasoning if it is not formulated in a way that that leave options and yeah.
So you have this phrase, the hegemony of traditionalism. So maybe many traditionalists would take issue with what you're sort of demarcating and is actually happening in practice, where the hegemonic traditionalists would say maybe represented by the Azhari position that you described. Well, if it's in the Quran, and this is a sort of a caricature of what goes on, but in sort of broad-based terms, what's in the Quran and Sunnah, and anything that is outside of the Quran and Sunnah. So if you're drawing from these sort of Western sciences, these sociology and things like that, then and if it's in contradiction with some clear verses, then clearly this is unacceptable. That's kind of, again, this is something of a caricature, but that's usually the sort of traditionalist, the hegemonic traditionalist narrative. Can you say, and you also in your study, you look at the sort of Salafi approach. Could you say a little bit about that sort of attitude and the challenge that that has, the challenge that that perspective poses to the work that you're describing, and we'll talk in a little bit also about the three particular models. You mentioned Malaysia, but the two others, Morocco and Qatar, you also mentioned, I believe that. So if you could say where the lines of commonality are, where they kind of really diverge, and also I think maybe we could say a little bit. I mean, we've kind of skirted around this topic, and we've kind of you've sort of adumbrated it in different ways. But maybe we could also address the very question of what is the Sharia, because it's in many people's minds, whether Muslim or otherwise, there's the sense that the Sharia is this kind of fixed coda of life for a believing Muslim that he or she must abide by, and it's sort of set in stone, and it never shall it be changed. And anyone who kind of wants to contradict the Sharia, then they're necessarily somehow outside of the fold. But what is the Sharia in reality? You mentioned also that we're always, ultimately, God is the truth, and we're always kind of approximating, we're trying our best, and necessarily by virtue of the fact of our being human beings, we're going to always fall short, which is one of the reasons why historically, traditionally, scholars would always say, Allahu Alam or Wallahu Ta'ala Alam at the end of any sort of pronouncement, but at the end of the day, only God knows best.
Yeah, first, let me, what you called hegemony, the hegemonic traditionalists, I like, if you like, to use the word of, again, go back to Maeve Cook, the Irish philosopher, when she qualified that, in fact, if any knowledge authoritarian in as any argument which as a knowledge conceived as outside history and context become authoritarian, what you call it hegemony. And actually, and the justification of this argument is related to the individual who uttered this argument. So you can, the very fact you say, God says something, and this is the only way of understand this something, become hegemonic. This is the problem. A Lebanese philosopher, Sadiq, I forgot his first name, it will come in. He did a PhD in Georgetown University about Al-Ghanouchi, studying his thought. And he argued that Al-Ghanouchi, because he always see the possibility of ijtihad, that this make many of his argument non-authoritarian. And in your language, non-hegemonic. So yes, absolutely. And the problem of the Salafi, if you like, trend, and especially in its transformation, because Salafi movement started as a reformist movement in the time of Muhammad Abdul Wahab, but how it's the alliance with Wahhabi, the alliance with the Wahhabi Salafi movement, with the political in Saudi Arabia, etc. All this is make from this trend very hegemonic and very literalist, and everything is utterly is one literal meaning. It's very interesting, by the way, just anecdotically, I will say it. When I analyze fatwas, online fatwas, so I saw many online fatwas organization, and I took fatwas on al-hijra, on migration, okay, and integration in non-Muslim society. The Salafi website, whenever you have this fatwa, it not end with something, could be very ritual, like Wallahu A'lam, and God say better. You in the other online fatwas, I mean, you have this always, it's like a ritual, like Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Sadaqallahu al-Azim. God say more, Allahu A'lam.
Yes.
Or say God say
God
better. Yeah, something like that. So this is what I found it interesting, that yeah, Salafi is a literally understanding of religion, and this is where it's not combined with the high objective of Sharia. There is no context of
and no intellectual humility, it seems. I mean,
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Absolutely, so Sharia, you raise a question rightly about the Sharia. Sharia become, instead of understand it as a norms, that norms always has a socio-historical construction, like a set of law valid for every time and time and space. So here will become really problem, if you like. So Salafi, and I give example. I look, unfortunately, every time the foreign, the Western government, when they hint against Islamic teaching, they mention extremism, radicalism, etc. And for me, I see crisis of the social also. I want a minimum. I need a minimum of equality between gender equality, more social class fairness, etc., etc. Justice, fairness, yeah. So, but I will bring this example. In the University of Kuwait, where I studied their curriculum. By the way, I didn't say where I did my fieldwork. My fieldwork was in Kuwait, Syria, Lebanon, Morocco, Algeria, and Jordan. Okay, this is the country, in addition of Malaysia. So and of course I did a lot of secondary reading work about the Azhar, about Saudi system, etc. But I mean, this is where I went and I did the field work. What is very interesting in Kuwait, the first, if you like, parliamentary system in the Gulf. So it's very important. And in Faculty of Sharia, you have a course called Legal Politics, السياسة الشرعية. What is very interesting, it's written exactly replicating what is in the 4th century of Al-Hajir. It's they are against democracy. Consultation, shura, is not compulsory. Political parties is against what they call Islam, against Islam, Sharia, if you like, the way they use the Sharia. In a country, it's so when I publish this I have when I have this an interview in Al-Qabas in Kuwaiti newspapers, I have a call from Ministry of Religious Affairs of Kuwait. Someone, I mean, I think he's a minister or vice minister, I don't remember. He said, "Are you sure this is what our pupils, our student in the Sharia in University of Kuwait is teaching?" I can scan the book and send it to you. This is exactly what is taught today in Kuwait. I said, oh, unbelievable. I said, exactly. So this is a point that in fact is as I said, the problem that so much each elite they in political authoritarian system, that this political authoritarian system made more modus operandi in the following way. Say, I keep you, religious scholar, to do whatever you want on social, and of course I forgot to say that also the allegiance and the rejection, al-wala wal-bara, is in this. So it's clear, this siyasa sharia, they said they advocate how system should be in Iraq or Syria in that time, when etc. But of course, full allegiance to Kuwaiti system. So the political leadership in Kuwait say, as far as these things is taught only in your sphere, I don't care. Don't do politics, no action politics, okay, and do whatever you want. And actually, this faculty is under the influence of Salafis. So and in the same time, you have so this kind of things where really this book is revealing that there is a real problem on this, that you will create elite where cannot do an argument. They can roting, they can recite what is mentioned in the fiqh books. I mean, again, I give you another example. In faculty of Sharia in Syria, in this secular quote unquote state, you find unbelievable things, the same thing, including, for instance, a chapter about the marriage and the divorce written by the late Sheikh Wahb al-Zuhaili, who is a great faqih. But I mean, he wrote it. It's exactly how Shafi'i wrote it a few centuries ago. For instance, to say that in case of a slave, that witness should not be slave. I mean, come on. I mean, today, why a Syrian today in the 21st century should read the condition of witness someone who is not slave? I mean,
that's insane. Yeah.
So you have a lot of things like this. I mean, so they cannot do an argument to citizens. This is my point. This is where takamul, where integration should be done, if you like, or in my language, ecology of knowledge. You need to make argument to citizens. You cannot bring argument for citizen like this. Yeah. So what? Of course, I can say much more things. You asked me actually a very good question about what I think it's a pioneer case. And deliberately, I didn't bring programs from Western countries. I don't want to say Islamic Studies in Columbia University, your dear university, dear Hasan, is the best. No, I didn't want to say, no, I want to bring from Arab and Muslim world. So I saw the Moroccan one, Dar al-Hadith al-Hasani, if you Institute of Hadith Hasaniya. Hasaniya, it's related to King Hasan, so they call it after him. Actually, they said, look, we need to bring people who know what is psychology, what is sociology, and they taught them almost 60% things related to Sharia and 40% social sciences and the humanities. And where I see the difference, when I see the PhD, I found PhD produced in this institution. I would say I cannot know whether this guy is graduated from sociology or from Sharia. Really, they control the two science, and they are playing with.
That's
and
incredible.
Normative and moral message, ethical message in the end. And you may agree or disagree with that. With it, it's not the outcome is not important. I mean, I'm so worried about the process. The intellectual civil war in the Arab world is related to process. The day there is with the pluralism, you can manage two different things, different practice. Now we talk about legal pluralism, we talk about moral pluralism. It's not, yeah. So this is one institution. The other institution is College of Islamic Study in University of Hamad bin Khalifa in Qatar, because they conceived the program where to give a good chunk of knowledge in question of ethics. Because why I said it's important to start with ethics, because ethics is about argument, is about anthropology, it was the constant and the change, it's about what is universal. Okay, all this is will you bring it together, okay, and then you conceive fiqh informed by this ethics, if you like. So this is why College of Islamic Studies is, and it's clear that the outcome of masters, because they don't issue, they don't have a PhD program, but master program. This is where I found is fantastic. The last example is IOM, the International Islamic University of Malaysia. In spite, if you read the chapter, and hopefully the article will publish in English very soon in IIIT journal. It's called, I think, Islam Society and something like that. You will find I am critical of many aspects in this, including this. I see clearly tension between the Islamization of knowledge and the pluralism as a concept, if you like. Yeah, in a country where 40% of population are not Muslim. So are they have more interest of use this or this? Although I see so intelligent. I mean, they did the fantastic work on terms of economy, of Islamic economy. They really, this university did excellent things. So, but I like this major minor things in this university. and produce scholar. They wrote the first article in this electronic money currency, bitcoins, quickly. Why? Because the scholar there, they have economics as a formation and religious studies, so they can understand both. They can bring knowledge. What is the best position vis-a-vis the bitcoins? Okay, that I found the first articles in bitcoins come from this university. Will not come from university Imam Saud, for instance, in Saudi Arabia, because even if you have a BA in Islamic economics, because they are so weak in economics. While here you have in the same campus the economy, the economics, and so I show that we can learn so much from IOM, this Malaysian university. So this is, if you like, the three pioneers.
That's incredible. We'll slowly wrap up. If you could, Professor, tell us what is the future. And really, you're kind of, and I sort of intentionally entitled our discussion today, "The Future of the Sharia," because I feel that in your work, you're really sort of addressing very important trends that are emerging. That unfortunately not universal trends yet, but there's some very hopeful and inspiring trends happening. So to my mind, not to sort of put words in your mouth, but to my mind, this represents the future of the Sharia, and which is really not paradoxically, but it may seem paradoxical to many people, which is really how the Sharia was historically. So the Sharia in the past, how it was understood and practiced as this sort of ever nimble, intellectually, contextually very aware, so to my mind, the Sharia is less of a science and more of an art. Of course, there's certain aspects to which would come under the rubric of science, but to really be sensitive to the different contexts of different people, even in a single village, two people's requirements cannot be the same. And this is what traditionally the Islamic jurists, they understood, and they had the sort of sensitivity to be able to address the needs of each individual. But today, I mean, there's a complex history, of course, as to why it's become this way, where the Sharia has become this very top-down approach, and it's very kind of removed very often from the people. But in any case, so to speak a little bit about the future, because for Muslims, of course, to live is as Muslims, as believers, isn't just a notion of saying La ilaha illallah, that no God but God, but it's a lived practical, there's a very significant practical dimension to things. At the same time, if the practice becomes completely impossible or so detached from the realities of our context, by illustration, by way of illustration, I remember reading a few years ago, the story about Ibn Battuta, and please correct me if I'm getting the details right. He, I think, if I remember correctly, was trained as a Shafi scholar, and he, of course, traveled the world and traveled great, incredible lengths. And I think he ended up. Correct me if I'm remembering this correctly. He at one point ended up in Malaysia, and he, because of his training as a qadi, he was given a post as a jurist, and then. But then he ran into some problems because he was giving fatwas which were not applicable to the people, and he was kind of told off by the locals because he saw women in skirts. I said, this is not allowed. This is not in Islam. Blah blah. And then his contemporaries, and obviously his contemporaries, but local qadis, they said, you have to understand the context. In our context, it's okay for women to wear skirts. So the context, and this is Ibn Battuta. He didn't live to, a century ago. I mean, how many centuries ago now? I forget. But if you could speak a little bit to, you know,
yeah. Look. Again, the problem. Sharia had become so contentious as a buzzword, where, for instance, it's very interesting. People say we don't want the secularists say we don't want to live with the Sharia, and the religious groups say we want all the bad situation we live economically, politically, etc., because we don't apply Sharia. So it become and then both, I think they are exteriorize the problem, and instead of saying, okay, I mean, what is it? Again, as you said, as I said, that it's not a fixed things in Sharia, and this I am against those who say they lump political Islam and say we are against political Islam. I think there is a lot of violence in these terms because in this position, because there is religion like any other ideology, like any other doctrine, has a political ramification, has a political aim to guide the politics. But here where I use the word ethics, through ethics will guide the politics. So where is the problem with the political Islam? Why in Germany they have a Christian Democrat party and the Islam is not? Why in Germany a German citizen can tick when apply for a tax, when they put a tax, can tick whether the money will go to religious institution. It's exactly zakat, what we call zakat, or not. So it means even the Germany today is in this side is intersection between Christianity, because the money can go only to Christian institution, because historically this is not because they are I think sectarian, etc. And I'm sure German will change this with the important presence of Turkish and recently Syrian community. But so the word now, the Pentecostal church, so influential in Brazil, in Africa, in America, United States. So the issue is not anymore we say we need to a thick wall between the religious and the political. This more and more nonsensical. If the religion, if the situation like in Iran is where there is non-elected person, Imam Khamenei will tell not only the Iranian parliament what they can put in discussion or not. So it's above the political system. Or through Wilayat al-Faqih will tell the Shia community here whether they will do. If the situation is like this, it's terrible. Of course, this is where the distinction is very important. What is the political with the capital P? Okay, but religion as a ethics can have a say in politics, but not as a but is not, there is no there is it's not in a technical meaning of politics, has nothing to do with the politics, and I would say has nothing to do with how market will function. Okay, but as a moral should moralize the market. Okay, and so on. So and here I think more and more the word Sharia is contentious. I said maybe we don't. It's so confusing. It's better not to mention it. Okay, so let's boil it down to fiqh. And fiqh is changing according to high objective of maqasid al-Sharia, but the Sharia not in the meaning that we use every day, but also ethics. Ethics will overarch, make principles, and this principle from which al-fiqh will be created and changed, and so on. So I think we need to admit that we need another conceptualization of what is secular. And I think this is what, I mean, the crisis of religion is related to the crisis of secular. When secular become everything, here really become problem. And when religion become everything is become problem. So how you create a mechanism, they work together with my methodology of separation and connection. Okay, they work together in ethical level in order to inform both personal status issue, relation between people, but also civil law, managing pluralism, managing individual freedoms. People have the right to dress whatever they want in the public spheres. As I used to say, forcing people to be veiled, forcing people to be unveiled are the same thing, whether in Iran or in France, and things like that.
This is incredible, Professor Hanafi. Thank you so much for your time and your really incredible work. You've done a great service to all of us, and your dedication and commitment. There's so much, very clearly, so much work has gone into your 800-page book. Really sort of having these 5 different sites, and over a period of 5 years, it's really remarkable. And we need genuinely, globally, we need greater appreciation of the things that you're addressing, the questions that you're raising, your insights. These have to be really spread amongst, certainly first and foremost amongst Muslims globally, but then also people who don't identify with any religion or of other religious faiths, just to understand the historic richness of the sort of Sharia as it was practiced and understood, the intellectual sophistication that it had historically, which Muslim thinkers, scholars like yourself and others, they're doing great work to revive. And this is sort of part and parcel of the tradition, which is that it's about renewal. And if we're not renewing any institution, anything that becomes institutionalized of necessity becomes ossified over quite rapidly, actually, unless we're constantly seeking to renew and challenge and there are reasons why institutions exist, of course, because institutions help us to, in many ways, not have to think too much in practical sense, it makes sense. But then if we become ossified, then we start to, slowly become irrelevant, but also become authoritarian and hegemonic and all sorts of awful things. And in a world which is clearly not only, it's not world only populated by believing, practicing Muslims, there are all sorts of other people that in order for us, those of us who self-identify as Muslim and so forth, in order for us to still have as a place at the table, as it were, where these greater discussions can happen, we have to be relevant. And I think your work really speaks to that in a very profound way, in ways and challenging ways. And I look forward to similar future conversations. And again, my encouragement to everyone is to think very deeply about Professor Hanafi's very profound insights and challenging insights. These are not something that can be just dwelled on for half an hour. This is something that has to really, because it goes into the very assumption of what, or some of the very assumptions of what it means to be a religious practicing Muslim today. Assumptions that very often they haven't been questioned and challenged. These are assumptions that very often are problematic assumptions. I don't say wrong, but they're very flimsy assumptions very often. So I thank you again, Professor, for your
pleasure,
time.
Hasan. Thank you for the invitation.
Oh, no, God bless you. It's really our pleasure and our honor. And,
thank you.
I thank you again for your work and for your time. And I pray that you continue to help us all really navigate these very challenging terrains. But this is the beauty of the intellectual work. It's not meant to be simple.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It's really an honor. God bless you. Take care now.
Ciao, bye.